my name is Katie Wright, and you are watching Divine Shine Healing, Mediumship, and Tarot. This is a new channel that I am going to be posting on regularly. I have all my content scheduled up here, and I'm excited to bring it to you. Basically, my channel is about my journey through Reiki and mediumship, which began in 2019. I've had lots of experiences that are very profound, that have been very healing and uplifting and positive, and I don't want to forget them. So this is kind of my video diary of what I've experienced since I became Reiki attuned and realized that I had some spiritual gifts that previously in my life I didn't know about. So where do we begin? Well, let's begin kind of at the beginning. So I became Reiki attuned in 2019. I did my first attunement and I started working on clients. For those of you who don't know what Reiki is a form of energy healing. It's a Japanese form of energy healing that's ancestral, so it's passed down from families to family. And it's similar to acupressure in the sense that it works with stored energies in your body or your chakras to clear them out and keep them moving. However, Reiki is non-touch while we perform it. Additionally, what else? Oh, so it works on the Ayurvedic principle that anything in the body that physically manifests is a result of something mental, emotional, or spiritual. So if we can get to the root cause of an injury that you may be having, for example, and we can identify from a higher awareness the root cause of that injury, then that injury or illness can be let go by the body and you can get back to health. Reiki is also really good for anxiety, working through issues. There's just a multitude of things. So look it up if you want more information. Also, if you want to do a Reiki session, there's a link in my description box with my email. Feel free to reach out to me. I do offer Reiki services, remote, and as well as mediumship, as well as I sell these really cute hair bows that I make. So anyway, so that's kind of the gist of Reiki. So I started working on clients in 2019, and while I was working on a client, I was doing the meditation in my head. I was closing my eyes and I was kind of going through, I kind of was zoning out. I was going through the checklist of my day, like, oh, I got to pick up my daughter from school and I have to take out the trash and I have to mow the lawn. I don't know. And then all of a sudden I had these other thoughts and I was like, wait, those are not my thoughts. So I wrote them down and I shared them with the person I was working on after, and it meant something specific to them, but I had no idea what it meant. It meant nothing to me. So since that started happening, I started to started to question these experiences. I started to strengthen these experiences, and now I'm receiving a lot of information. And it's not just during Reiki sessions. So I'm not schizophrenic. I'm not crazy. I'm mostly totally normal. But yeah, so it's been a really interesting journey, and it's one that I wasn't ready to share for a while because I wasn't exactly sure what was going on. And this is a similar situation or similar story to other mediums that I've listened to. I watch a podcast I listened to a podcast by Medium in the Middle. She's a young woman out of Canada, and she's very different than me. I'm a Pisces, and I thought she was a Virgo, but my friend just told me that she was an Aquarius, but I'm not sure. Anyways, she's much more analytical than I am. So whereas she's, having these experiences and she wants to be logical and test them and confirm them and validate them, I'm just talking to her dead grandmother like, okay, this is normal. So um anyways, so before she kind of came out and said she really understood what was going on, she went through a similar situation like I did, where I started having these experiences and I kind of just tried to logically explain them, and I couldn't. And then finally it came to a point, which we'll get to, um, that that there's no denying what's happening, and it's I call it a gift. And um, I've been trying to find a way to bring it to other people, because I know that it's very healing, and I know that it's work that really excites me. And obviously I have this gift, so not everyone else does, and I'm meant to do this in some capacity. And so I always wanted to treat it with a very with the most respect, because you're talking with people, you're talking to people whose loved ones have passed away. And so I'm very diligent about ensuring that I'm speaking to the right person, that I confirm that I'm actually in that person's energy. I'd never want to tell someone that I'm communicating with their loved one when I'm not. And so it took me a while to really get to a point where I can say, this is me and this is what I'm doing. So I'm going to try to keep these videos to 20 to 30 minutes. And today I just wanted to introduce myself, explain what Reiki is, explain why I'm starting the channel, and give you a few of the backstories until we get to the bigger stories. So it's definitely a progression. But okay, so that was the first experience I had when I was working on my client, and I had these thoughts. They weren't mine, wrote them down, shared them, and then it meant something specific to that person. Well, on that same session, I started to receive a feeling. And it's interesting, I don't really so let me back up. Sorry. The ways that in which I receive information are internal hearing. So I hear things in my head, not audibly. Internal sight. I'm seeing images and pictures in my head, and I'm not actually seeing, thank you God, I do not want to see. I'm not actually seeing things in the physical world. And also I feel feelings. So I can feel other people's emotions, and the intentions behind their actions, which gets me in all kinds of trouble. And also I feel, sense, I feel sensations, and I interpret those to mean something. So for example, if I'm working on a client, I had this experience where we were outside and it was a beautiful sunny day in Southern California. It sounded like there was rain. We were on a patio and it sounded like there was rain. Well, I knew the sun was out. It was just the leaves hitting the patio cover. And my client heard it too. She's like, wow, it sounds like it's raining. I was like, yeah. So I kind of interpret those sensations to mean something. Or if it's like I feel constricted, then I would describe, oh, I'm talking to this person whose energy feels like they're very uptight, in a bad mood, not open. So those are the ways in which I receive information. Another side note before I go on, I do feel that all of us have some capability of having these gifts, and I do know that you can strengthen them. I feel like some of us are more naturally inclined than others, but from my experience, it just takes a quiet, open mind and a willingness to put yourself out there, because this shit that I receive is crazy. And literally, if I tell myself, Katie, stop thinking that you're crazy, I know that I'm receiving something, because that's how insane it is. So um, you have to have the ability to discern what is yours and what is not. So you need to know what is your energy, what you feel like, what you sound like, how you act, how you behave, in order to distinguish it or discern it from someone else's. And the example that I gave about working on my client, having thoughts, realizing those weren't mine, is a perfect example. That's the beginning, the very beginning of how I started. And I was working on her. I had thoughts. I recognized these thoughts and I realized they weren't mine. So I discerned, that's not me. What? Where did that come from? So where did that come from? And I didn't understand, but I had a feeling it was meant for her. I'm getting the chills. So anyway, so getting back to the second part of that session with that woman, I was working on her and I had a feeling. And so I typically don't receive feelings as much anymore, because or maybe it's just more encompassing, like it's just a knowing now. But then I would get a feeling in my own body that I couldn't explain. And so if you've ever it was like the feeling of euphoria, okay? And I don't really know a better way to explain this besides like if you, okay, if I'm hesitant to say this, if you've ever done ecstasy, okay, so you know that feeling of euphoria where like you're just warm and happy and in love with life and everything around you. I started to receive that feeling in my own body, not in a weird druggy way. That was just like, I noticed it. I felt this feeling of warmth. And then I would receive a feeling. Well, I'm a big fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I've listened to a lot of his meditations and read his books. And he talks about when his clients are in, I believe it's the gamma brainwave, which is the wave in which where you're kind of in the flow and you're about to have a transcendental experience. And I may be getting this wrong, so please don't quote me verbatim on Dr. Joe Dispenza's, but this is what he talks about. Is he says that your body goes into this gamma brainwave and you release oxytocin. Well, that makes sense, because that's what I felt, is like an opioid rush, which I've never done opioids before, but so I've heard, that's kind of what I felt. So I felt that rush, and I feel like it's kind of like a clearing of my own energy so that I can receive what's coming next. So I had that feeling of that like opioid rush, and then it hit me with this feeling that I was picking up from this woman, and it was the feeling of despair. So unfortunately, it wasn't the greatest feeling, but it's like I feel it, but I don't, and this is important, I don't absorb it. Like I'm not feeling despair. I just notice the feeling of despair. So it was really interesting, because the second time I received a feeling, I was working on a different person. It was a male, and same thing happened. I got that opioid rush, and then I started to receive a feeling, and the feeling was hopelessness. Again, another unfortunate feeling to feel, but anyway, so, you think, oh, despair, hopelessness, it's the same thing. It's not. It's vibrationally, I guess, if you want to call it that. They do not match. It does not feel the same. Hopelessness does not feel like despair. I could distinguish between the two, specifically because I knew what it was by the way that it felt, and it's kind of abstract to explain, but so that was my two first experiences with feelings. Okay, so then my next experience happened shortly after. I was Reiki level attuned, second level Reiki attuned by this time, and I was working on a client in my living room and just going through the things, the meditation, and then I'd said, it's so strange. I have this image of this woman. I'm like, this woman standing in the ocean. She's facing the horizon. She's topless, but you could just see her back. And she has long, flowing hair. And my client started to get emotional. And she's like, that's my mom. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, my mom. That's my mom. She died. And I was like, wow, that's strange, weird. And I kind of just brushed it off, didn't understand what I was doing. I was pulling up an image of her mom. Her mom was giving me that image to confirm her presence, to confirm that she's still in her energy. And I didn't understand it at the time. And so I just quickly glazed over that and then moved right along. So the next two stories are they start to get a little bit more involved, and gosh, I have so many stories. I'm so happy I'm doing this because I never want to forget them, and I keep getting them every day. I had another experience today when I was teaching yoga at the end in Shavasana, which I'll tell you about that one later, but I'm excited to tell you all these stories, and thank you for listening and watching. Check out the description box below if you are interested in reading or Reiki or a hair bow. Okay, and thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful, prosperous, fortunate, blessed, whatever you want to call it, day.